Hey, here's part two, just as promised. And this one is a little bit more infuriating than the last video, but I do have some good news. Turns out, the guy who Zarna was yelling at in the original video, the guy who called himself Humongous, he has cancer, but the guy from H3 Productions made a You Caring charity account for him. And everybody was so generous that they crashed the website. Now they've got a new one set up on, oh, I think it's GoFundMe. I'd have to look it up. I might link it in the description. But last I checked, people have been donating to Humongous's account, and he has over $50,000 donated so far for his health care. So karma's a bitch. Everybody was donating like $1 to Zarna Joshi's account and just trolling it so hard with all these, crazy names, that are sexual innuendos. But now Randy, or Humongous, has got his own, and he's just raking in the dough from all these, kind and generous people. And I don't know if Zarna is going to be starting up another account or anything, or charity account, but she's not going to get anywhere near as much as Humongous has been getting. So it warms my shriveled little heart.
We're supposed to accept crass jokes, innuendos, lewd gestures, physical intimidation, sexual assault, rape, and murder. Everyone knows that.
Hey, I like crass jokes and innuendos. Screw you, Zarna. Just because you have no sense of humor doesn't mean that I can't have any fun. And who on earth told you that you had to accept rapes, assaults, and murders? In the United States, we have a code of law that prohibits all of that. If you do that to anybody in the United States, you'll be punished, even if you do it to a woman.
When I refuse to be silent, and I raise my voice, and I demand safety, it makes some women angry and afraid. A woman who dares to speak out in this culture of silence is a shock.
You started screaming at a guy who made a silly joke. You weren't in any danger. Humongous wasn't going to do you any harm. You started acting aggressively and erratically at him. And to think that you can demand safety at any place and any time is incredibly naive. Nobody's safe. All sorts of things can happen to a person at any given time. A meteor might strike through your house and hit you in the head. It's happened before. Somebody could break into your house and rob you, rape you, or kill you. And you don't even have to be a man or a woman. You could be anybody. There are dangers all over this world, from humans and nature, everywhere you go. The type of safety you're demanding is absolutely unattainable.
Women have spent their whole lives worrying about what men think.
I have never worried about what the opposite gender thinks of me, so speak for yourself.
It's called internalized oppression. Instead of protecting each other, the sisterhood is fractured, divided, leaving us isolated and afraid.
There is no sisterhood, Zarna. It's just your little fantasy. There is, however, your friends, your family, any loved ones that you may have, to love and support you throughout your life. That's what anyone needs. I have both men and women in my life who love and support me. One of the most important being my own father, who's a man. Certainly we should all watch out and defend each other against those who would do us harm, whether they're male or female. And believe me, there are plenty of women who have done a lot of harm in this world. I also don't know about your experience with your family or friends or whoever, but I have a lot of male relatives and friends in my life who would do anything to help and support and protect me, and I would do the same for them. I have a family, not a sisterhood.
Of course there are men denying that I was sexually harassed. They have to deny it, because otherwise they would have to admit that they've been sexually harassing women their entire lives. And there are women who are denying it, because otherwise they would have to admit that they've been sexually harassed. And there are women who won't admit it even to themselves, that they've been sexually harassed, assaulted, even raped. The trauma goes that deep. It's called internalized oppression.
I don't know what you think constitutes harassment, but it's generally something that's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable and intimidated. And I've never experienced any kind of uncomfortableness or intimidation from, a random stranger on the street. I'm not exactly sure what was going through your mind when Hugh Mungus made his little joke, but from what I saw in the video, I don't think you were intimidated or felt uncomfortable because of his joke. You just decided that it must have meant something sexual and decided to run with it. I don't think that fits the definition of harassment.
In a patriarchal society, women are always considered to be the problem. So even when she defends herself, she's seen as the aggressor. The man who sexually harassed me, he was hostile.
You seriously call that hostile? He wasn't getting up in your face. He wasn't threatening you. He wasn't doing anything remotely aggressive. I mean, for fuck's sakes, he was walking away from you. You seriously have something wrong if you think that's aggression.
Sexual harassment is hostile. He escalated the situation when he repeated his sexually harassing words. The security guards escalated the situation when they criminalized me. The cops escalated the situation when they attempted to intimidate me. The news station escalated the situation when they posted the video with sexist, dismissive commentary. The cyberstalkers escalated the situation when they sent me violent messages and sexual threats.
Zarna, you escalated the situation by approaching him with your phone out while he was minding his own business. You also escalated the situation when you started screaming at him for making a stupid joke. You also escalated the situation when you started screaming at the police. They didn't intimidate you. They were holding their hands over their guns so they wouldn't have anybody trying to grab it while they were trying to talk to you. That's not intimidation. And lastly, you escalated the situation by putting up that particular video on your Facebook page where anybody could download it and post it to the internet. As they say, the internet is forever.
Many cops are ex-military. 8 out of every 10 women in the military experiences rape and/or sexual assault while serving. It's officially called unwanted sexual contact to protect the men who perpetrate these crimes. And those same men go into our police forces. That's why Blue Lives Matter have been posting hate videos about me, ensuring that rapists and stalkers target me. The cops are the very perpetrators of rape culture, but women have been indoctrinated into thinking that the police are there to protect them. The truth is, the cops are twice as likely to commit domestic violence against their partners.
I'm pretty sure you got that source from Wikipedia, and it said that 1 in 4 women were sexually assaulted, 25%, whereas 80% were sexually harassed. So, nice job distorting the facts. I also find it rather funny that you neglected to mention the amount of rapes and assaults that happen to men in the military, too. According to one fact sheet I found, over 10,000 men were raped in 2014. But I guess they're not part of the sisterhood, so they don't matter to you now, do they? A lot of men in the military do choose to go into law enforcement after they leave their service, but they also do other things. Like, for instance, my father became a machinist after he left the service. My fiance now works as a quality control person in a factory, and he's trying to become a postman. I have a lot of friends and family who have either been in or are currently in the military. My experience has been leagues different from yours, if you've had any experience, real experience, with anybody in the military at all.
They ask, what were you wearing? What were you doing? What were you saying? Instead of asking, who was he? How did he get away with it? How do we stop him?
You know who asks those questions? Who was he? How did he get away? The cops!
You were wearing ethnic clothes, dear. You were asking for attention.
Said absolutely no one ever.
But the white women tell us that the way to deal with it isn't to stop men from targeting us. It's to hide our own bodies and our identities while trying to be white.
What the? What the fuck? Now I really do believe you have paranoid schizophrenia.
The word crazy is used to marginalize anyone the patriarchal power structure wants to shut up. Not only are women and people of color marginalized this way, but people with mental disabilities too. It's called ableism.
Okay, give me an example of somebody who was wrongly institutionalized in the modern day, and I might believe you on that count. Think about it. Just a few decades ago, people barely even understood why people went crazy or had mental disabilities or what have you, much less how to treat it. I can't believe we've gone from, like, sexual harassment to military and rape, and now to this.
And by the way, crazy isn't a mental condition. It doesn't actually mean anything, except that someone is trying to silence you. It's a type of tone policing, and tone policing is what happens when those in power can't argue with what you say, so they argue with how you say it. It's a tactic used primarily with women and people of color. You're so angry, you're so crazy, you're hysterical, you're irrational, you're raising your voice. That's tone policing.
Reading the definitions off of dictionary.com, crazy is mentally deranged, demented, insane, or senseless, impractical, and totally unsound. And that's exactly what you sounded like when you went off on Humongous.
This historical emasculation has led to some men of color affirming their manhood by abusing women. It's their attempt to have power like the white man. But the white supremacist patriarchy will never let them into that boys' club. That's why black men get shot in the streets. That's why brown men get profiled as drug dealers and terrorists.
Look, everyone, she's throwing all the non-white guys under the bus, too!
As far as the white supremacist patriarchy is concerned, people of color are animals to be used up and thrown away.
Well, I guess the civil rights movement was for absolutely nothing.
So when men of color go after me, sexually harass me, stalk me, they're aiding and abetting the white supremacist empire, and they don't even know it.
You seem to know more about women and racial minorities than women and racial minorities themselves. I wonder why. I don't need you to speak for me, and I'm pretty sure these guys don't want you speaking for them either, especially after you accuse them of, domestic abuse.
Let us come together to end rape culture.
Oh my fucking god. I laugh every time I see that part. Anyway, I thank you for bearing with me. The microphone on my headset went out during the recording of this video, and I had to wait for some time to actually save up the money and order a new microphone, but this one I am very pleased with. It sounds great, if you can't tell, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Other than that, Humongous's charity page, I think, is at about 150,000 at this point. I'd have to go out and look, but I am ecstatic for him. This can't happen to a nicer guy. And so, Randy Pintoya, I love you, man. And I hope you guys have a great night, day, whenever it is. Papa bless.